Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas and techniques to create a happier lifestyle for yourselves. And today I've got Kristine Genovese, who helps healthcare and wellness professionals restore their own well-being while transforming how they support others. She created the Soul Intelligence Method, an energy-based approach that releases trauma and addresses root causes without revisiting the pain. Through sessions and online training, she teaches others to integrate this work into their practices. Her mission is to improve health on every level and spark a ripple effect that reshapes lives, elevates healthcare, and brings soul intelligence into wellness spaces everywhere. Well, welcome, Kristine.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Denise. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, what inspired you to do this type of work?
What inspired me? This kind of came about during COVID in particular, when I developed the method. When the world got the great time out, I was one of those people because I had been a corporate revenue and turnaround specialist for most of my career. And I was a fateful day, March 12th of 2020. I was in a doctor's office with my now husband, who was getting a biopsy at the time on his prostate. And I got the call from HR letting me know that was my last turnaround and that my services were no longer needed. Now, that was pretty shocking at the time because I had just gotten a performance bonus. We were in year one of a planned 3-year turnaround. We were making the turn. So that was the big shock of my life because I had never been fired before. I had always met or exceeded expectations, and I was doing the same thing right there. So I was freaking out like everybody would and realized that was really my divine timeout. So I know that was the divine's hand plucking me out of corporate America and telling me my time there was over. And so what I did is I was very fortunate that I was given like a 9-month runway, okay, to really figure out like what do I really want to do with my life? I had a girlfriend tell me, instead of just going back into doing what you've always done, why don't you figure out what you really want to do? Because of COVID, everybody's freaking out anyway. How do we do this work from home thing, which I had always done anyhow, but I realized during a meditation that I couldn't possibly go back into corporate America. And so through a series of meditation and prayer, the system was really given to me, really downloaded to me, I really believe, from the divine. Now, I had learned how to use a book of charts and a pendulum a number of years back, but the system was very rigid. It was more very religious based as opposed to open and spiritual and as in depth and broad based as what mine is. I have a book of charts and a pendulum, and I have about 30 different charts that I use when I'm looking to discern information for people. But the way I got it out there, I had to bridge both the work world, the business world, and the spiritual world, right? And so I always talk about this is really where science and spirituality meet. So I talk about root cause healing in particular around the energy that is stuck in the body. So I probably should tell you what the method is to really try and give you an idea of what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, energy and good energy or bad energy does get stuck. Yeah, I'd love to hear this.
Okay. The way it works is I talk to people about quantum physics. I talk to them about, first of all, everybody and everything is energy. Even though we're physical, we're corporal. I think we forget that we're all protons, neutrons, electrons, and an electromagnetic field, right? We learned that in elementary school. Now we forget about it. And then people are like, how can you do this work over Zoom? I'm like, how am I seeing you? This is a transfer of energy. It is a frequency. It's a transmission that's being received by the computer or your phone. Like we stream all kinds of stuff now. So people are like, what? How does that work? Even music gets streamed into our ear canal, right? And we perceive that energy, that vibration as music. So everybody and everything is energy. And so when energy is no longer in motion, that's when it gets trapped, and that's when it pools in the body, and that's when it causes dis-ease, dysfunction, or dissonance in your frequency, and you got to go see a doctor. I am very fortunate that I work in the field of functional and integrated medicine where people are committed to treating people holistically, completely, right? And that's where we're always looking for root causes as opposed to just focusing on one specific area of the body. So I come in by helping to relieve the underlying emotional root trauma that mentally or emotionally is keeping that person sick. So the best way to do it is you get a cold, right? something simple like a cold, that's usually caused by mental confusion. You've been ruminating over something and you start to get a cold because your immune system drops because you're spending so much time in that repetitive thought. And then over time, things can be more serious. Like it's one of the reasons why people develop things like breast cancer, depending on which side it comes in on. But a lot of it is giving too much to others and not giving enough to yourself, like literally not nurturing yourself in the right way. So there's always an underlying emotional root cause. And so my method allows me to figure out what that is, because where we store things in our body is usually in that subconscious mind, right? And we know that's running the show 95% of the time, which is a good thing, or we'd all stop breathing when we're sleeping. But it is a little challenging. Like you think, I worked through that divorce. How is that coming up again? Because mentally, we think we've released it and made peace with it, but our body, our cells still hang on to the trauma. And so this really allows me to figure out where it is, what it is, and how to get it up and out of the body so that they can heal completely. Because if you're depressed, it's really difficult for someone to heal an illness. And in the field of functional medicine, typically what we see are chronic conditions, things that just won't heal. They keep coming back. And so typically they come back because we haven't dealt with what the true underlying emotional root cause is.
And I find too, when you're dealing with stuff like that, like especially if you're dealing with stress, it tends to stack. So it's not just one thing you're dealing with, it's one thing and then the other thing, and then all of a sudden you've got way too many things to deal with. So for someone that recognizes, yes, I need to do some work along this line,
Yeah.
any initial steps that they can take?
I think it's sometimes there are simple things, right? I can talk about if I wake up and I've got a pain on the right side of my neck, for example, I might think, oh, I slept wrong. Or I think, okay, the right side of the body is typically male, left side's female. So it could be a male. And necks are about flexibility. Who am I being inflexible with, or who is being inflexible with me? And who is that pain in the neck? It's probably my partner. There are things you could go a little deeper, and where does it show up? And sometimes we get a divine timeout, right? You'll twist an ankle and all of a sudden you're stuck because you've been pushing yourself too hard. So when we get those moments of reflection, I think it's really getting in deep and maybe even asking your body, what are you trying to tell me? What am I supposed to look at or do differently? Because to your point, there are basic things and mostly lifestyle things that we can change to improve our health mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, in all ways. And it's within our control if it's lifestyle based, which is the good news. So the big ones, you named one, is stress. Okay, that is one of the biggest things that affects us. Then there's toxicity, and toxicity comes in a lot of different forms. It could be what's in your home. It could be the cleaners you're using, things like that. It could be your environment. It could be people, energy vampires. You know, that person comes up on your cell phone, you're like, ugh, I don't want to answer that phone call because I know it's going to be full of negativity. It's what you listen to, it's what you watch. All of those things can be toxic, let alone what we eat and consume. So, poor nutrition and the toxicity of our food today is something we're all, I think, becoming a lot more conscious about as well. And then you've got lack of movement. I've often heard people say sitting's the new smoking, just because not moving enough and moving the energy through your body in particular. And the last one is really genetics, right? And that's only about 5% of the reason we develop a condition. Sometimes we're clearing things for our family or our family line. We inherit conditions or situations that reinforce the same beliefs or the same behaviors that make it more difficult to shift up and out.
Now, what is the soul intelligence method? Like, do you actually find that, I'm going to say, clogged energy in our bodies, or how does that work?
It's cool. Like I said, I have a book of charts and a pendulum. So the charts are everything from negative energies, emotions, thoughts, self-limiting beliefs. Those are the things that kind of cloud our vision and keep showing up, like I'm not good enough or I'm invisible or those things. And then we look for evidence that still exists, right? It kind of clouds the way we view the world. I have about 100 different archetypes or patterns or roles that we'll play in our life. And archetypes, when they're clear, are supporting us. And when they're showing us the darker side, the shadow side, it's a challenge for us to see in others. And then I have physical charts, just like we have 7 major energy centers in our body, the chakras. where energy can stagnate or pool. It can also be in our organs. A lot of people are struggling with diabetes and things like that today, and that has a lot to do with our pancreas and the insulin that is produced or not enough is produced there. Pancreas in particular is really our connection to source, which is fascinating to me. That's what the word actually represents. And so I might clear energy out of somebody's pancreas. I might get really specific. There might be an event or a trauma that comes up. I had this gentleman that I worked with recently, and a lot of times people work with me because they've tried everything else. I'm the last stop on the Magical Mystery Tour. Hey, I've tried everything. Now I'm coming to you. And this gentleman was that way. His wife actually found me. She heard me on a podcast and she was like, listen, we've tried everything. We've tried modern medicine, we've tried functional medicine. I've gone through the VA system, and my husband is in so much pain. So I did a session with them and he showed up to the Zoom and I could see he had oxygen in his nose, nasal cannula in. His breathing was very labored. He was in a recliner, pale. You could tell he was uncomfortable. And he told me he had pain in his thoracic area, so between his stomach and his chest. And so I did a session with him. I looked at him and I said, wow, something really traumatic happened to you and 80 other people about 52 years ago. And I said, you've been carrying the weight of that responsibility in your gut for that long. And he went, oh my God, I was in Vietnam. And that was how many people were in my company. And can you imagine, this guy's in his 70s, right? And he's been carrying this like intensity, because if you think about like our stomach and our gut, even Hippocrates said 2000 years ago, all health begins and ends in the gut. If you think about when you're about to do something that makes you nervous, you get butterflies in your stomach, or something bad happens, you get a punch in the gut. It's where our self-esteem shows up, how we show up in the world. So our stomach is really our center, our core. And so that's where he was holding all of this energy. So I worked with him, we shifted it. And the cool thing was, by the end of the session, there were a whole bunch of other things that we shifted to, but this was very specific. I was able to see him take the oxygen out. He had better color in his face and he was sitting up. So wow, it's not as intense as it was before. And I said, we probably should do a few more sessions, because you go to a chiropractor for a biomechanical adjustment, you come to me for a bioenergetic one. So sometimes if stuff's been in there a while and you've been suffering a while, it takes a little while. So I worked with him a couple more times, and I also partnered with a functional medicine doctor. And I said, hey, now that we've gotten the energy up and out of the body, why don't we give the body what it needs to heal itself completely? And so he started working with him. And what he found out was he actually had, the reason why he had this phantom pain, that's what the modern medicine was telling him, it was a phantom pain. You could see he was in pain, was because his stomach was producing too much serotonin. Now, serotonin's the happy hormone. You'd think the guy'd be laughing his ass off, but not, okay? It was like too much of a good thing. And so what the functional medicine doctor was able to do is look at all the labs, figure out what's the body been doing, so that he knew what to give him to counteract that, which was GABA, which the reason why his body was producing too much serotonin is because when you're on antidepressants, typically you have to have more and more to get the same effect, right? You titrate up. And they had given him so much that his body was overproducing something that was causing that intense pain. So we got the energy out. His body was then able to receive the healing. And so I saw him pop on my calendar a few weeks ago. And I was like, what's he doing back here? We get on the phone. I go, what are you doing back here? He said, I'm feeling great. And he had color in his face and he was animated. He was sitting up. He wasn't in the recliner all stretched out. And I go, why are you here? He said, because I'm feeling great and I want to keep feeling great. Then his wife pops on and I was like, that's freaking cool. And then his wife pops on and she says, guess what he just did? I go, what did he just do? He used the snow blower and blew snow out of our driveway. I got my handyman back. Now, this was a guy that was stuck in a recliner, right? And had lost like almost his will to be here, that I worked with over a period of a few sessions. And he's now back living his best life. And that's why I do this work.
I love that. So now if someone was interested in taking a step towards doing this work, what steps could they take?
There are things that we can all do on a daily basis to clear our own energy. I think we have to remember that because you're an energetic being, we've got an energetic field. We're always attracting energy into our field, good and bad, just as much as we're interacting with others. And you can ask, is this mine or is this somebody else's if you feel off or funky? But you can do basic things. You can go out into nature to change your environment. That's a quick way to change your energy. One of my favorite ways is to laugh. That brings you up into joy immediately. You can listen to high vibe music. There's music that vibrates at certain hertz because everything has an energy and a frequency, including music and emotions. So there are basic things. You can take a salt bath. An Epsom salt bath is a great way to do it. Just envision everything kind of washing down the drain when you take that time out. So there are little things you can do, but if someone's interested in a soul intelligence session, what I'm called to do is to teach people this method. So I want more people to learn how to do it. I have a workshop that I do over 8 hours, which gives people half the charts, a little taste so you can take care of yourself. But if you want to learn how to do it and do it for others, I have an online course that's available for people to learn. I do sessions, usually partnering with functional medicine doctors, but I also have practitioners on my website who could work with you. So it's to come visit soulintelligencemethod.com. And that's soulintelligencemethod.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. If you want to put your toe in the water, I do a monthly session based on a theme. So I do the first Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern. I set up a session where I do a group session. And self-abandonment has been a huge theme lately. And when somebody approached me with that term, I was like, what the hell does that mean? You're always with yourself. What does self-abandonment mean? Basically, what it means is placing somebody else's needs above your own and worrying about that other person. If that other person's okay, then I'm okay. If they're not okay, I'm not okay. And making somebody else more important than taking care of your own needs. And I think most of us do that in a lot of ways. And it shows up in different ways. Sometimes you stick with a job that you don't want to do just for the sake of the money, as opposed to doing something that's in alignment for you.
Yeah.
So it shows up in a lot of different areas. I have a theme scheduled for every single month of the year. So sometimes we get around Mother's Day, I'm going to do it based on mother wounds. Father's Day, it might be around father wounds and money blocks and things like that. So depending on what time of the year it is, I usually have a theme. And it's always the first Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. Eastern. And if you're interested, you can sign up to be a part of my inner circle and participate that way. And if that feels good, then you can go from there.
Wonderful. So we're going to be wrapping this up, Kristine. So what are your final words of wisdom to the audience today?
One of the things I really stand on is self-care isn't selfish, it is sacred. I want people to remember that when they decide to start on their own self-healing journey, they're not just helping themselves or the people that they know in their lives, whether that's family or friends or coworkers, they're actually impacting the collective at large. And people are like, what? What do you mean? There's a theory that's actually in quantum physics called the butterfly effect. And what that means is a butterfly, if they dramatically change their flight pattern on one side of the world, it can cause a tsunami on the other side. And that is because we are all connected. So just know that anytime you decide to start working on you, you are helping the collective at large, as well as all the people that you know and come in contact with. So I encourage everybody to continue on their self-healing journey.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Kristine. And so wherever you're watching or listening to this, I will have her information there. And yeah, if you have any questions, please reach out and ask Kristine your questions. Thank you so much for your great information today. And just giving you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life. And I'll see you in the next episode.